Today on the DML News podcast, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, including garbage and how it is that you are garbage, according to Joe Biden. Plus, we're going to look at some very disturbing videos out of Pennsylvania. What the hell is going on there with all this voting shenanigan nonsense that's going on? And, of course, we're going to show you some nutballs who are in complete support of everything, including killing a baby at birth, and, of course, just making sure that Trump goes to jail. Get ready. It's going to be a good show today, and it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. If you're joining us live on X, if you're joining us live on Rumble, and of course, Team DML and the DML News app, we appreciate you spending your day with us. We know there's a lot of people you can choose to listen to, and the fact that you're with us means not only are you totally smart, but you are a supporter of the truth. We are completely ads-free. You're not going to hear me read some prepared statement, so this way I could make $5,000 in 30 seconds like some of my competitors. Instead, we just focus in on giving you the information that you need. With that being said, we're going to dive right into it. There's a thing called the betting markets. That is where somebody, no matter where they live, can basically bet on who it is that they think is going to win this presidential election. It's the same thing as betting on a horse or betting on a football team in the Super Bowl, betting on a World Series, whatever. People tend to put their money where their vote is. And right now, based on just a few hours ago, a comment from Elon Musk shows that Donald J. Trump in the betting markets is winning 67 to 33%. That seems in line with how things should actually be. Nobody's going to deny that the third of Americans are absolutely demented. They don't have a chance of finding their ass, even if they were to use both hands. I don't know how it got like this. I got a sense it has a little bit to do with taking in people by the millions from third world. I've got another sense that says it's because our education system is no longer about science, technology, engineering, mathematics, none of that stuff. It's all about how it is that you could be a champion for blue hair causes. There's something in the Fruit Loops that is causing a third of our citizens to go batshit crazy. But there's 2/3 of us who still have our heads about us. There's 2/3 of us that understand that there's a lot more to life than having an abortion, because that seems to be the only topic that the left can run on. And what we're going to show you today from Tim Walz is going to blow your mind, although it's nothing new. We have a man who wanted to put tampons in little boys' bathrooms, and he has no problem with killing a baby in the womb, even up to the last day. But we'll get to that in a second. Right now, I want to talk to you about something very, very concerning. Very concerning. Over the past 24 hours, I've spent more time on social media than I like to admit. You know, I try to keep myself away from social media because the truth of the matter is, although this little phone here, you have one, I have one, and just about everybody with a breath in their lungs has one, I believe that the smartphones have made this country dumb. We no longer rely on our common sense. We rely on some computer that was basically programmed by far-left liberals. When we look at polling, we see that the race is tight. It's like Trump can barely win if he even can. How can that be? How can we have a betting market that shows Trump is winning 2/3 of the bets, and yet the polls, which are dictated by the media, by the way, are showing that Trump is either getting his ass kicked or just holding on by a thread? Let me tell you why that is. I've talked about this for months, and I haven't talked about it, though, in the last couple of weeks because we've been busy so much with the news cycle. But I'm going to bring back a topic that I talked to you about day in and day out over the summer. These polls are designed so this way a reasonable doubt is created in your mind. You keep on seeing poll after poll after poll. And I'll even do the commentator's voice. Today, a new poll came in from NBC News, CNN, And it comes out to be that Donald J. Trump, 48%, and Kamala Harris, 49%, with a margin of error of 2%. And you're left there every single day thinking to yourself, who's getting polled? How can this be? Nobody's showing up for Harris. She doesn't give a single damn answer. You watch her, she is a complete train wreck. I mean, I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm so evil, but Joe Biden is as close to retarded as one can get. And I don't use the word retarded in a disrespectful way. I mean, he's right there. And yet, he makes more sense when he's speaking than Kamala Harris. And again, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be degrading to anybody. I feel horrible for anyone who has any sort of mental problems. Joe Biden is as bad as they come. But yet he makes more sense on so many different things than Kamala Harris. How can we have a 48-48, a 49-47, a 47-47? How can that be the case? It just doesn't make sense. So if you create reasonable doubt in the mind of my son Ryan or my son Denny or myself or my wife or you, somebody who's going to vote for Joe Biden, excuse me, I didn't have my breakfast. Somebody who's going to vote for Donald J. Trump, no matter what he does. We don't care if he talks about what Arnold Palmer looks like naked in the shower. We don't care how many times he may or may have not cheated on his wives. We don't care about if the Trump University went kapooey and a few people lost their money. We've all got skeletons on our closet. We've all done bad things before. We've all made mistakes. But at the end of the day, when I look at the Trump scorecard from a presidential level, he scored pretty high. Okay? I'll give you another example. There are commercials all over my television set every single night because I live in Florida, so now TV ads are actually targeted, and I've been watching the World Series games because I'm a New York Yankees fan, and every inning I'm seeing a advertisement with Donald J. Trump saying to vote yes for Amendment 3 here in Florida. Amendment 3 in Florida will allow anybody and everybody who's 18 or over to be able to smoke weed in public, which means that if I'm at a park with my young daughter and some guys are sitting there smoking weed, not only do I have to see it, not only does she have to see it, but I got to smell it. If somebody's in a restaurant and they want to light up right outside the door and they want to start smoking weed, there's nothing I can do about it. This is horrendous. And yet Trump is saying, vote yes for this amendment. Somebody got to him, or somebody told him that this amendment reads in a certain way that it does not. I can't believe that Donald Trump would be saying, say yes to smoking weed in public in front of little kids when he himself has never done a drug and never taken a drink. My point of bringing that up is I don't agree with everything that Trump does. I don't agree with everybody he hires or aligns himself with. He actually had Marco Rubio on his short list of VPs, a guy who wanted to give amnesty to 50 million people in this country during the Obama era. Marco Rubio, who has changed and flip-flopped so many different times, I can't believe he's still getting voted into office, was going to be the VP for Donald J. Trump. What was he thinking? And so I want to emphasize, Trump is not a perfect person, but yet I don't care what he does. I am going to vote for him over Kamala Harris. There's no doubt. There's a difference between making a few mistakes and putting a few wrong people in positions than actually selling your country out to China and to every bad foe, including Iran. There's a difference between saying vote yes to Amendment 3, and I say to myself, who got to him, versus telling me that I can't speak freely anywhere, because that's what Kamala Harris is going to do. So why is it? Why is that these polls keep on showing such a tight race? It's for one reason and one reason only. So this way, when you wake up on the day after Election Day or 4 days after Election Day, whenever it is that the final results come in, which is sickening when you think about it, that we may have to wait that long, when Kamala Harris actually pulls out a short, little, tiny margin of victory, you're left to say there's more than 33% of idiots in this country. you're left to think that, my God, we've got more idiots in this country than I recognized. It's not so far-fetched. I'll give you an example. There are 65 million people right now on the government teat. 65 million. Arguably, without collecting illegal aliens and putting them into the number, we've got 350 million. So that means a fifth of our citizens are on the teat. And you know, in most cases, they're going to want to stay on the teat, so they're going to vote blue. But look at the number, 1/5. That's 20%. So if you say 20% that are on the teat are going to vote to keep on staying on the teat of the U.S. government, okay. And if you're going to say that another 15% of blue-haired people with, earrings pierced in their eyeballs and tattoos off their lips are going to vote blue, okay. But you're really going to try to sell me on 50% of the people in this country? No way, because I'm going to look at the betting market, and the betting market shows me what it should be. So here's my concern. There's a thing called a swing state. Right now, the big swing states are Arizona, Georgia, believe it or not, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, maybe North Carolina. Pennsylvania is the biggest swing state in play. And even though the Republicans are kicking ass in new voter registrations in Pennsylvania, we are seeing some serious problems. Now, let me be the first one to say, if there was just one video or one report, I wouldn't even be talking about this to you today. Wouldn't even be talking about it. But like I said, I've spent the last 24 hours on social media, and I continue to see things that are bothering me hugely. Hugely. Let's start off with the first one. Now, you're going to have to excuse me because I got to read from my computer so I could give you the exacts. But President Trump yesterday put out a tweet. Here's what it says. Pennsylvania, today, October 29, is the last day to vote in person by mail. I need you to vote, vote, vote. Don't let anyone stop you from voting. Stay in line. Don't let anyone turn you away and silence your voice. We need to make it too big to rig. If you're in Pennsylvania, don't wait. Vote today. Okay? So that's one. Lara Trump, who's the head of the RNC, writes 19 hours ago, attention Pennsylvania, if you are turning in your ballot early in today, do not get out of line. Every person has a right to cast their vote, and no one should make you leave. Spread the word. Now that is off a retweet that she put in from the Pennsylvania Department of State. And here's what the Pennsylvania Department of State writes. If you are in line at a county elections office tonight at 5 p.m. to apply for your mail-in ballot, counties must give you an opportunity to do so. Our team continues to work with all counties to ensure every eligible voter who wants to vote by mail ballot is able to. So, and Josh Shapiro, who is the governor of that state, also put out a tweet saying you have until 5 p.m. If you get on that line at 4:59, you are entitled to be able to do this. Nobody can kick you off. Now, yesterday, we showed you a video of a woman, member of the GOP, who was in line doing this exact thing we're talking about and was actually pulled offline and arrested because she was urging people not to leave, to stay online because the line was so hideously long. 2 days ago on this program, we announced to you, and we were one of the first ones to do it, that in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, they were finding ballots that were false signatures, false addresses, issued by the same handwriting by the thousands. 60% of those ballot applications were deemed fraudulent, and it was not just in Lancaster County. It was suspected that it was going further than that. Okay? Now, 22 hours ago, President Trump tweeted the following. Wow. York County, Pennsylvania received thousands of potentially fraudulent voter registration forms and mail-in ballot applications from a third-party group. This is on top of Lancaster County being caught with 2,600 fake ballots and forms, all written by the same person. This is starting to sound troubling, is it not, my friends? Okay. Now, also, Elon Musk writes on October 28th, early votes in Pennsylvania show Republicans doing 435,000 better than Democrats versus the same date in 2020. Biden's margin of victory was only 80,000 in 2020. This is trending towards a crushing victory in the most important swing state. Have I led you up to this point? Okay. We should be kicking ass in Pennsylvania. Well, now, the first thing we're going to do, and Ryan is going to wind up playing this over my voice, you're going to see a video, and this is coming out of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and this is actually put out by James Blair, who is a part of the GOP voting for Trump or whatever. I'll get to his exact title in a second. But he writes, as this video is playing, he writes, "What are you doing about this, Governor Shapiro? This is Bucks County Emergency Services shutting down the line in Doylestown right now at 2:30 p.m. This is suppressive and intimidating. And what you're seeing is emergency services basically putting a sign up at the end of the line stating that you cannot get online to do what you're supposed to be able to do up until 5 o'clock. And the woman who is filming this says in the video, and we're not going to play it because I'm talking over it, but she says it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, if that was the only video I saw, I'd just let it go. I would just let it go. But it's not. Videos like this are all over the place right now from all different places. I'm going to take you to Bucks County. Ryan is going to play you a portion of a video. This woman is walking up. It's well before 5 o'clock, and yet she is basically told you can't get in line. And when she asks why, the answer she gets is absolutely sickening. Ryan, play the video.
I have a question. I have to bring someone here about 4 o'clock to vote. Are they going to
ask you to talk to
Are
this?
they going to turn everyone down?
I'm going to ask you to talk to this gentleman because the voting is closed right now.
It's closed.
I just want you to talk to this gentleman.
We have the right to vote until 4:30.
I got you. Here's
Why
what
is it closed?
Let me explain it to you.
Please.
Okay. This process is very slow and grueling.
That doesn't matter if we're online.
Very slow and grueling.
It doesn't matter if we're online by 4:30. We have the
The
right
reason
to
why it
vote.
had to close was because a high volume of people wanted to do this. It's slow and grueling.
Well, then they
So
have
they
to
had
wait
to-
till everyone's.
They had to cut the line at 1:45.
They cut the line at 1:45.
1:45.
You hear that, everyone? They cut the line at 1:45.
Here's your.
This is voter fraud, by the way.
No, it's
who is,
not.
Yes, it is. Voter protection. I heard about that on X. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Contact
Voter protection. Let's see what that's
contact
from.
the county commissioners to complain.
This is, and so you don't think this is voter fraud? This is voter fraud.
Okay. Now, as I said to you, there are more than one vote. There's more than one of these videos. I just showed you the second one. There's even more than that. But I'm going to spare you. You get the point. They're closing the lines early for reasons of it's a grueling process. What the hell's going on? It's not like, hey, we only had one worker and they just dropped dead of a heart attack, which is understandable and would be tragic. But this is a grueling process. We have to shut down the line. That's voter suppression. That's voter intimidation. That's cheating. The governor of Pennsylvania has basically said you have until 5 o'clock. You can get in there. They've got to allow you to do it. And yet what's happening is completely different from what he says. And we're not going to be able to go back. And then what some stupid piece of crap judge is going to say a week from now is you don't have standing. Don't try to file a lawsuit. It's the same bullshit that we dealt with 4 years ago when we were told that we were out of our minds that we were spreading the big lie. I'm going to show you another video. And again, this is not the only one of its kind. It's the only one I'm showing you. For those of you listening and you can't see, there's a woman. She pulls up in a car. She sees that there's another woman outside of her car taking down and confiscating Trump signs. And meanwhile, posting up Harris signs. It is not permitted to take down somebody's political sign on public property. Ryan, play the video.
Yo, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you taking down signs? That's illegal. Yes, it is.
That's not personal property.
Why are you taking down Trump signs?
I wonder. We're putting up Harris signs. That's what.
Oh, okay. Cheating, just like, yep, sounds about right.
So, like I said, there are other videos of the similar nature of different people. I have another video of a man who's doing the same thing, pulling out signs of Trump on public property. And when challenged on it, he says that this sign is a lie. These people are taking measures into their own hand. Nothing's being done about it. Where's Governor Shapiro saying, if you take down a sign, you will be arrested? Where's the governor saying, if you close the line for voters for no good reason, you will be arrested? Where is that? There's none of it. If it wasn't for X, formerly known as Twitter, and Elon Musk, none of these videos, not a single one of these videos would be out there. It would be taken down from Facebook. It would be taken down from X, or what would have been Twitter back in the old days. I'll give you a prime example. Prime example. On Facebook, Facebook has sort of opened the floodgates a bit here, so people are getting more traction, more visibility. I mean, usually now with the way that they've suppressed things, if I post anything up there, maybe I'll get 50 comments if I'm lucky. Well, I've been posting things for the last week or so and seeing that I'm getting anywhere from 15,000 comments down to 1,000 comments. In fact, there's not a single post that I put up that only gets 50. That means that they're opening up the floodgates, and my opinion on this is because they want to make sure that they could get all those political ads they're collecting money for. They know they got to get them out, so they want engagement to be higher. And once that Facebook ad stream stops, we'll be cut off again. In every single last post that I have been putting up for the past week, I will put something up, like I'll give you an example. Have you voted yet? And people are going to answer by the thousands. I'm going to put a comment that says, hey, by the way, come sign up for our newsletter at DennisMichaelLynch.com so you could stick with us after the election's over and we start getting silenced by Facebook. I have signed up thousands of people. So by the way, go to DennisMichaelLynch.com and sign up for our free newsletter. Thousands of people. Not a single one of those has been deleted. However, when I posted the other day about the Lancaster, Pennsylvania voting fraud that has been uncovered, and I put a link in the comments section, it got deleted 7 times. I tried to put it up there and it got deleted as a comment 7 times. I took a screenshot of it so I could have it for proof. Facebook saying that I was posting spam because they don't want people to know about the stories. It is suppression. Catherine Herridge, one of the best reporters in a very long time, actually revealed yesterday in a video that went wild on X that the government absolutely knew that the laptop of Hunter Biden was authentic and real from the get-go. Facebook works hand in glove with the U.S. government. Elon Musk will not. So I go back. How would we know about any of this without Elon Musk? But this time we know. People are going to go batshit crazy if this continues. And you want to talk about crazy? We're going to play a video right now before I bring in Dennis. We're going to play a video right now of what I believe is the common, everyday Democrat who falls into that 33% of freaking next to you know what crazy, who just hate Trump. And they're not voting for Kamala Harris. They're voting against Trump because these people are demonic and they barely can take a crap without assistance. Go.
What's your biggest obstacle in life right now?
My biggest obstacle in life? Trump. Trump, absolutely. So
Do you wake up and think about him?
Yes, constantly, every day.
Do you go to sleep and think about him?
Yes, every day.
Are you in love with him?
I hate his guts.
Yeah, he hates his guts. These are the kind of people that you got to worry about. Don't keep them around your children. Don't let them anywhere near you. They're out of their freaking mind. Anybody who's sitting there and having dreams about Trump in a very bad way is the next person that the FBI should be following instead of some mom who's praying outside an abortion clinic. But with that being said, I wanted, before you bring you in, Dennis, I just want to tell people James Blair is bigger than I thought he was. James Blair, who's putting a lot of these videos out, is the political director of the Trump 2024 campaign and Republican National Committee. So he is the real thing. All right. This isn't just some freak who's trying to sell a conspiracy theory. This is the real thing taking place right now, Denny.
I think the beauty about X is that it is leaving a visual paper trail. And I've noticed what Elon Musk is doing too, just trying to keep account for different Republican registrations that are happening across the country, specifically in Pennsylvania. But the documentation of the surge of registration and then the documentation of what is happening at these polling stations with the lines being cut off early. I mean, come on, 1:30, 1:45 p.m., people are still at work. You know, imagine you're trying to get out from work to go do the early vote. You get there and they say, oh, sorry, you can't continue on the line. And you have the lady in there saying, oh, complain to the county commissioner. Now, it's very simple. You're allowed to go cast your vote until the allotted time, or even if you make it before and you're waiting online, every vote is meant to count. And the fact that it is very clear as day that there are cutting people off and yet providing the most lamest of excuses, it just shows that they either don't care, they don't care, or that it's not going to come bite them back in the butt. So my hope is that besides just checking your own ballot and making sure that your vote was counted the correct way, keep the visual evidence, especially in critical swing states, of anything that you see. It's kind of like the old expression, see something, say something. You need to take it to the highest level with this election. You see something at your polling station that looks off, funky, or very blatant as day, such as cutting the line off halfway through the day, you got to make your voice heard. You got to be persistent about it. I think that's the key here is the persistency.
Well, the great thing is that Elon Musk, who has 200 million followers worldwide, more than 200 million on his own platform on X, is now pushing. There's communities on X that are asking you if you are seeing anything that is wrong, anything, report it. We've got communities set up. In fact, what I'll do for people who don't follow Elon or don't have, X, what we will do is I will retweet it to my account, and then we'll put it on the DML News app so people can report it. And I do suggest that you get an X account. If you don't have an X account at this point, you're just Facebook only or Rumble only, you got to go support Elon Musk. It is the future of where things are going to go. I mean, I'll give you an example. Denny, you just sent to me last night, and your mother and I, we actually stopped watching Game 4 of the World Series based on being able to see Art of the Surge. Art of the Surge, and I think Justin Wells was Tucker Carlson's producer back at Fox News. Justin Wells and another cameraman were basically given unfiltered access to Donald Trump during the campaign. And we watched the first 3 episodes last night, the 28-minute episodes. You're going to only get that if you got X, Well,
so, and just to to emphasize that point, a lot of what you're seeing here, right, with lines being cut off early, ballots being miscounted, even that video of what's going on in Lancaster County, so many different individual videos that are accumulating about all these inconsistencies are only being viewed on X. I mean, if you were to share that on Facebook, you're going to be accused of misinformation or spreading lies or being counter to the fact checkers. So why be on that platform if you know that they're going to suppress things that you see, whereas you could go to X and realize, okay, what I see is the actual truth here and I got to share it.
Here's another example, right? So this was put out by the Border Patrol Union and retweeted by Trump. there's a billboard. I wish we could show it. It says it's a billboard in, I think it's in Arizona, and it's humongous. It says, "Your brother in immigration custody has rights." And then so it says, "This DHS, Department of Homeland Security billboard, supported by Kamala Harris, will only encourage and incentivize illegal immigration and the abuse of the asylum system to continue. This leads to record numbers of illegal aliens pouring across the border into our communities with little to no vetting." Okay? This is a prime example of something that you learn about that's happening because X allows it, and you would never know about it otherwise because everybody else would make you take it down. All right? This is Kamala Harris's DHS, Department of Homeland Security. That's what that is. All right? Another important thing, which is great to tell you about, is that we do have some good news. This is 1 hour ago, and this was breaking news. The Supreme Court rules 6-3 to allow Virginia to remove non-citizens from its voting rolls, lifting an order that halted the program. So if you remember correctly, the governor of Virginia wanted to make it so this way non-citizens had to be removed. The Department of Justice went after Virginia and said, no, you've got to leave them on there. And now the Supreme Court said basically, no, non-citizens are not allowed to vote. It's the only good news that I've seen here in terms of a victory for the GOP, for Donald J. Trump, and honesty of America. It's the only one, Dennis, the only one at all.
It sucks because for every positive outcome or story you see like that, you're seeing 10 more that just, I don't know, make you lose your faith in elections. I mean, what's very disheartening, right, is that we are the strongest first world nation in the world, at least in my opinion for now. And we should have the most airtight voter ID laws, and we still don't. And now there's this game of, I saw that, I think it was a Canadian that started the trend. He went over the border and he voted for Trump. He's like, hey, if they don't have to, check my ID, who's to say that we can't play it at their own game? I'll vote for Trump. And then it started a trend where you got like some people in Eastern European countries voting for Trump, and then another guy from Israel voting for Trump. So like, but I don't like that. I don't even like the fact that, we have people who are not citizens voting no matter who. So, why can't we get to a point where, and I'm sure if the Democrats catch that, then they're going to be all for voter ID. So we got to get to a point where we actually, I don't know, have elections that just make sense.
Well, I could tell you a couple little other things that sound like good news, but the problem with this thing with early voting that I can't stand is that it gives, and I talked about this. We the Ask DML episodes that we have once a week, there was a common refrain week in and week out. Do you believe in early voting, DML? Do you think it's good? And somebody had written about Dan Bongino, which I know runs his show at the same time as we do ours, right? Dan Bongino said, go vote early, vote early, vote early. Trump said, vote early, vote early, vote early. I said, I'm a traditionalist. I like to vote on election day. And the one reason why I don't like this early voting is because it gives the other side enough time to figure out what they need in terms of potential manufactured votes. So this way, on election day, they're all prepared. Okay, I'll give you an example. In Nevada, early voting numbers, this is as of 2 hours ago, reported by the America PAC. This is what Elon Musk had retweeted. The GOP so far has garnered 307,000 votes. Democrat, 264,000. So we got them by basically 40,000 votes. Other, which I don't know what other really would constitute, is 203. So find out when and where you can vote in your state. And they're offering this whole thing. So right now, the Democrats in Nevada know that they're 40,000 votes down. It kind of gives them the inside baseball and the inside scoop of how low they are.
Right. I just think all across the board with the early voting, it's a tricky game, right? Because we've had 2020 where we saw the abuse and how that happened. And I understand Trump's argument and I guess Bongino's about, all right, beat them at their own game, vote early. But when you do have that in place and you start to realize, okay, this is giving them that length of time to, okay, we need 20,000 here, we need 70,000 here. We need to make sure these ones aren't counted, or this county needs the line cut off. It really does just leave way too much leeway for issues to happen. I mean, truthfully, if I if I could be in charge of the elections, it would be one voting day, same for everyone. The only special exception being if you're serving overseas or if there's a very big primary concern as to why, maybe that would faction out to 10% of the population. But for the other 90%, that election day, that is your day. You go in, you vote, you get in there, you hold the line, paper ballot, hand count, and make it as airtight as possible. But when you have too much leeway, especially within all the different states, this is how we're going to have the lapses, and then this is what's going to happen when it's Thursday or Friday after election day, being Tuesday, and saying, "Oh, well, now with everything tallied, Kamala Harris just squeaked by," and it's just that's what the narrative's going to happen. That's what's going to be.
I'll give you another post. Just looking at this right now, 1 hour ago was posted to this, the election integrity community on X. It says fake Rhode Island license plate, 1YB652 on a white Volvo, seen in Northampton County, Pennsylvania, dropping off hundreds of ballots after hours. Man that was questioned said he was United States Postal Service. Someone needs to investigate this. Who is it? Now, somebody dropping off after hours and a big, huge, and it shows a big, I don't know, Ryan, if you could see it on my laptop. I don't know. We'll try to do it. But I mean, it could be. I don't know if we can't zoom in on these things. But I mean, it's right there. You can see it. The photo of it's taken. Why would somebody who works for the Postal Service have a Rhode Island license plate in the state of Pennsylvania dropping off ballots?
It's questionable. That's what I'm saying. There's just too many scenarios so far where, whether it's something blatant, like actually setting the ballot box on fire, or the postal workers. I mean, there was another one where there was a postal lady like deep at night going into one of those ballot boxes and removing, the ballot letters. So I don't know. I think there needs to be an encompassing of video evidence to make the accountability airtight, because there's just way too many scenarios popping up. And, it's only Wednesday. We still have days until actual election day.
Here's another one. Here's another video. Bus of non-English speaking citizens fast-tracked to the front of the line to vote as Republicans surge in early voting in traditional blue states. And this is another, I mean, you can see the video. You can see what they're doing. Some of them have Harris stickers on. They're not even speaking English, and they're there to vote. All right. Another one. Breaking. This is 2 hours ago. Citizen AG has filed a federal lawsuit after discovering Wisconsin's Department of Transportation gave two nonprofit DMV data containing the personal info of millions of Americans and non-citizens for targeted voter registration and outreach efforts. I mean, it's nonstop.
That's why you got to get the X account, because you're not going to see any of that on Facebook. Anyone who would try to share that is going to be labeled as a misinformation,
Another one, Erie County, Pennsylvania. Many people did not get their requested mail-in ballot, which increased the traffic at the one voting station courthouse, resulting in our county councilmen alienating the voters. They had to extend in-person early voting because so many people didn't get the ballot. So you can see where this is just seriously a problem in Pennsylvania. Another person writes, I'm a Florida poll worker with serious concerns about vote by mail. Our large population of snowbirds are receiving Florida ballots in their home states, particularly New England, but also New York, New Jersey, North Carolina, Nevada, Michigan, and other states. How do we know they're not voting in two states? And that's the part. That's the part that beats the freaking shit out of me, because we are the United States of America. We're supposed to be the most advanced country in the world. We're told all the time that we don't have to worry about our security here at home, that our technology supersedes that of China and Iran and Russia, and that they can't reveal to us for national security purposes, but don't worry about it. We got it going. But we can't do an election. We can't get an election right. Last word on this, and then I want to go to Joe Biden, what he had to say about everybody.
I just want to say, one of the Democrat touting points, other than the fact that they, have diluted the concept of voter ID, is voter suppression, right? Our minorities are too afraid to vote because of intimidation, this and that. Where are their voices on any of these scenarios? I mean, this is voter suppression. This is voter fraud. This is just election interference. Literally, you're interfering with the line that I'm standing on to go vote.
Samantha Fikes posts to this election integrity community. I tried to vote in Coweta County, Georgia yesterday, only to find out that someone had changed my entire name and address and illegally voted in Clayton County, Georgia. The changes occurred on September 4th, 2024.
Yeah, I saw a video how one lady was saying the first time she ever voted was 2020, but then when she looked at her voting track record, somehow she was voting Democrat even way before then. So this has been a continuous problem that is kind of now just snowballing into, okay, this is almost widespread. It's almost like a sickness that develops somewhere and then just kind of becomes a nationwide issue.
Here's another one. I mean, this is getting crazy. It says that in Colorado, the passwords to voting machines were released to the public inadvertently. How do you do that? How do you do that? Now, there's a whole other thing going on in Pennsylvania where people are walking around with badges, wrapped around their neck, almost making it look like they're officials. And on it, it says voter protection. Okay? So they're walking up. These are not officials. It's Democrats. It says update. In case anyone was wondering, the voter protection official telling everyone they can't vote is Democrat official Pam Janvey. She works for some organization that is not a legal poll watcher. I mean, this is basically what they're doing. They're playing every single game they possibly can to suppress the vote. And I think, who was it that I had the chart? Was that the Gallup? Gallup just put out a poll of which we were going to have that as the major sign today. 80%, am I right in saying that 80%? 80% of Americans say that they support voter ID.
84.
Yeah, Ryan's got it up on the screen right now. 84% of people, based on a Gallup poll, and Gallup is a credible polling company. 84%. And yet, we've got every Democrat just recently voted to say no to ID. And what they'll do is they'll claim that it's racist. And so what that is, to me, that's racist in of itself. Because if you are a elected official, you're basically saying that if somebody goes to cast a vote for you, they can do it. They know how to press a button. But if they need to have voter ID in order to do that, that's racist. So you're basically saying, let's just say it's a black person, that a black person isn't smart enough, isn't equipped enough to go get themselves a free voter ID, but they can show up to a voting house, wherever it is, a church, a school, whatever it is, and they can cast a vote. They're smart enough to get to the polling station and understand what it is to cast a vote, but they're not smart enough to go up and get themselves an ID.
That's why I say it's their weakest policy standpoint to this day. I mean, they use every excuse. Even that interview Kamala did a while back, saying that rural America may not have access to like a Xerox machine to get their ID printed. Like they will come up with every sad, pathetic, or just totally out of this universe excuse to justify that voter ID, the one ID that is not required in a country that requires identification for everything else, is just totally not necessary. And it's just obvious. Like at this point, I can't believe I'm saying, but I would almost like have more respect for them if they just say, hey man, we're just trying to game the system so we can win, because how else are we going to win? We don't have that natural support. They don't. So that's their game. All right, let's dilute the concept of needing any kind of identification to cast a vote for the next president of the United States.
Now let's put into something else, which is, as far as I'm concerned, same thing: election interference. There was a jobs report. Private job creation totaled a stunning 233,000 in October, far more than expected, according to ADP. ADP is the person who processes paychecks for companies. So that's CNBC putting that out. What does that say to people? That says to people, whoa, the economy is coming back. Kamala's plan, Joe's plan, it's all working. It just needed time, like they said. 250,000 new jobs. Now, I would bet all the tea in China that a month from now, when the election's all over, that number will be revised. How many times have we seen these fake and fraudulent numbers put up only later for the government to revise those numbers? Now, here's to boot, okay? Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Another report was put out today. Now, Forbes, which can be, in some cases, accused of being center-right, puts out, and this is within each other. I took the screenshot. It's both one underneath the next under my X feed. It's amazing how this is sold. Forbes comes at it straightforward. The U.S. economy grew at 2.8% annual rate during the third quarter. That number came out today, short of expectations. Bloomberg, which is left and far left, reports the same thing. The U.S. economy expanded at a robust pace in the third quarter as households and businesses stood tall in the face of global headwinds and uncertainty ahead of the November election. The U.S. economy expanded 2.8%. So in one case, you've got Forbes telling you the truth. Hey, we thought expectations was going to be more than 2.8. We failed. And Bloomberg's going to try to sell it as 2.8 is this phenomenal thing. If you take Forbes, which I believe in this particular case, I wouldn't trust Bloomberg as far as I can throw him, but I could probably throw him pretty far, the little rat. If you look at the 2.8 falling short of expectations, you really can't manipulate that number like you can the jobs number. So how is it that you had, according to Bloomberg, unbelievable expansion in the rate of economic growth? How do you fall short and yet have a huge employment number? The two don't make sense. It's like you coming in here and telling me, Dad, I got no money. Can I get a raise? And I go outside and see that you just pulled up in a brand new Porsche, which you didn't, by the way. And I have no money to give you a raise. But do you get what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It's all manipulated. And this is part of voter manipulation. There's no doubt about it.
Well, look, I'll just generalize, most Democrat voters aren't really statisticians or looking at the actual stats of the facts. They're just going to read a headline or even maybe the first paragraph, if that, of the Bloomberg report, and considering that they're painting the narrative to make it a positive, when in reality it is, this is actually completely short of what the expected growth was to be. They just take it at face value. And to add insult to injury, as you pointed out, because we have seen this a lot in the last 2 years, they are going to revise those numbers in 4 weeks from now, especially after the election. They're going to be like, it was actually even lower than what the projected rate was. They've done it every single month. Every single following month after that report, the numbers get revised lower than what they were estimated at.
We're going to change gears here for a second with still staying in the election realm. And we are going to play a report for you. It lasts a couple minutes. It will give me a chance to rest my voice and Denny to collect his thoughts. But it's no new news at this point in the morning that yesterday Joe Biden referred to you and half of America, if not based on the betting line, 66% of America, 2/3 of America, he referred to us as garbage. But we'll allow CBS to tell you the whole story. And just do me a favor, when you're listening to this and they get to the part about January 6th, 2 words you have to listen to for the CBS sort of influence of how this report gets sold. Number 1 tells you that Trump lied about the election being stolen in 2020. And then number 2, when they talk about people going to the Capitol, it's they stormed the Capitol. Watch the emphasis on stormed and the lack of emphasis on Biden calling you garbage. Play.
Vice President Kamala Harris's closing argument less than a week before Election Day. Speaking in the same spot former President Donald Trump addressed supporters on January 6th, she focused on her goal of making progress through national unity, pledging to be a president for all Americans. But even as Harris delivered that speech in Washington, President Biden said something that could undermine her message. Nancy Cordes was at the Harris event last night. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Nate. Yeah, and as predicted, this was by far the largest rally of the campaign for Vice President Kamala Harris. An estimated 75,000 people crowded onto the ellipse and down the National Mall all the way to the Jefferson Memorial as Harris sought to draw a sharp contrast in these closing days between her vision and Donald Trump's.
It is time for a new generation of leadership in America.
Standing before a sea of supporters, Vice President Kamala Harris painted a dark picture of what a second Trump term would look like.
This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power.
With the White House as a backdrop, Harris stood in the same spot where Trump rallied supporters nearly 4 years ago with false claims of a stolen election.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
Rioters stormed up the steps of the Capitol a short time later. Last night, Harris called for a different type of politics, vowing to work across the aisle.
Unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail. I'll give them a seat at the table.
But even as she was stressing unity,
I pledge to be a president for all Americans.
President Biden was courting controversy with his reaction to this insulting comment made by a comedian at Trump's Sunday rally.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Speaking virtually to Latino voters, Biden said this.
Just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
President Biden later tweeted to clarify that he was not talking about all Trump supporters as garbage, that he was only referring to the comedian's rhetoric as garbage, adding, quote, his demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. But this was certainly not the distraction the Harris campaign needed as she heads into this very carefully orchestrated final stretch of the campaign.
So I already got a little bit of your take on this. I am in the full belief that Joe Biden is sabotaging Kamala's campaign. Now, the real question becomes, is it intentional or unintentional? Does he make that garbage comment because, he's Biden with the slow brain, as we've known for these last few years? Or is he a really pissed off man who's the leader of the free world and realized he got cooed and shooed to the side in favor for his VP, which he probably never really had a full say in choosing in the first place? And the reason I say that is because I think if he was the candidate right now, it's always about choosing your words carefully, especially for the Democrats. I think if he was the candidate right now, I don't think he would just blatantly say that Trump supporters are garbage, because there's a difference between a comedian making a joke and also making a literal reference to the fact that Puerto Rico actually does have a huge issue with their trash dispersal. From all the hurricanes, they haven't had proper removal. And if you go to the non-touristy parts of Puerto Rico, they have an actual trash issue. But then compare that to him saying that half of America right now is garbage in the mindset and the view, also happening at the same time with her big rally that she had in D.C., which I already have questions about that 75,000 number. It just makes me believe that either intentionally or unintentionally, he has kind of become a plague on her campaign. So I'm not sure if people feel the same way, if it was intentionally or unintentionally done. But for him to say that, and the White House transcript to try and change his words around, even Kamala Harris this morning actually said that she disagreed with his statement to try and distance herself. I'm not sure what your take might be on that.
Look, Kamala Harris has proven time and time again that she's a liar.
Right.
And the one thing you go back to about Joe Biden right now in his mental
Acuity.
state, his mental state of, like I said earlier today, And I want to I never use this word in the same way I never use the N word, but I'm really talking about this from a medical standpoint. He is as close to being retarded as you can possibly be. Okay? Again, from a medical term. Because he's like that, he doesn't have the ability to cover over what he really feels. He has what we call diarrhea of the mouth. He can't keep himself contained. She is a liar. She's got all her wits about her. She's lied everything. She thinks you're garbage. If she thinks Trump's garbage, I mean, she in that whole thing that you just watched with CBS, she said that Trump is unstable and obsessed with revenge. When I see Trump, I see a guy who is as sharp as they can possibly be. He sat for 3 hours with Joe Rogan and answered every question and was able to weave into other topics because that's what he does and still be able to bring it all home. Now, I'm 55 and you know, and Ryan knows, I'm able to weave too, right? How many times do we have conversations at home and we'll start the conversation about, hey, here's what we're going to do. Look, Denny's laughing. Here's what we're going to do. And then all of a sudden I turn around and I make the conversation into something else and I bring it back. How many times have I sat there with you and be like, I forgot what the hell we were talking about? Trump doesn't forget what the key point was. You know what I mean? The guy is sharp. He's anything but stable. He's stable. And I never, ever, ever hear him talk about going after his opponents. Obsessed with revenge?
No, he never put Hillary away. I mean,
He's obsessed with winning.
Yeah.
That's what he's obsessed with. And he's obsessed with winning because not only does he want to defend the United States of America, but he's also defending his own freedom. If he loses, he's going to jail because the Democrats have gone after him unfairly. And if you haven't noticed yet, everything that the Democrats say that the Republicans, Trump, and people like you and I are doing, it's a false narrative. They're trying to pin what they're doing on us. It's like this reverse psychology sort of thing.
Yes.
So, you know, the fact that this old dude is trying to call me garbage and then trying to walk back his statement, I could give a rat's ass. He's irrelevant in all this. The only reason why he's even given this moment here to even speak is because he's so jealous. He's got seller's remorse. He says, Kamala sucks. I should have stuck in this because he's too demented to realize that he's so far over the hill. He's got seller's remorse. He feels as if they've cut him out of the show.
Yes.
Right? Barack Obama, we want you on stage. Michelle Obama, we want you on stage. Joe, why don't you stay home and eat your ice cream? He's like, wait, I'm the president of the United States. Historians say I'm the best there's ever been.
They have been pausing his participation in a lot of the campaign.
They want him nowhere.
Yeah,
they want him nowhere. Now, with that being said, you would think that this late in the stage, Walz may try to say something, or Harris would try to say something that would bring in that middle voter.
Right.
The few that are still undecided, you think they would want to. Walz does not. He keeps doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on the notion that if you are pregnant and you're in your third and last trimester, if you are right up to the time where you're going to give birth and you want to kill that fetus or that child or that baby, whatever word you want to use, go right ahead. And by the way, if you have a little boy, don't mind if I send him tampons as a gift, do you? Play the video of Walz basically saying third trimester is so fine and okay.
Should there be any limits on abortion, including limiting third trimester abortions?
Look, Vice President's been very clear. Making sure that we restore the right of Roe versus Wade, making sure that women and their healthcare providers, because these services are healthcare, making sure those decisions are made in the best interest of the health of the mother. And that's exactly what we've talked about the entire time.
Healthcare? That's like me trying to sell to your mother that when I have a rough day and I say, can you pour me a scotch? And she says, come on, do you really want the scotch? I say, hey, it's healthcare. It's helping me with my stress. It's not healthcare.
No,
killing a baby is not healthcare.
It is insane how much this topic has become such a crux to their campaign. And, you know, I mean, Walz is just an absolute joke. And like the whole Madden stunt that he just pulled with AOC too was just absolutely laughable. And, you know, this is for just maybe because we may come back to it in a few weeks and be like, oh, I was right. But there is this theory that AOC right now is actually pregnant because when she did the video stream with Tim Walz, she has a little more weight to her, and women have said she's got the glow, like the pregnancy glow. And the theory is that she hasn't revealed it yet because it kind of kills their whole messaging of like, we are so pro-abortion. All of a sudden her coming out and be like, oh, I'm pregnant, and it would ruin their tactics here. So I guess we'll see if that's true or not. But regardless, the fact that he could go say that on cable news television and just say it so confidently, it is baffling to watch what their priorities are compared to what every normal American really has as their priority, which is stop the craziness at the border, and also can we please curb inflation so I can go to the grocery store and not want to rip the hairs out of my head when I get to the cashier.
Let me share a little personal. We're going to go over the hour here. That's fine. It's election week. We'll give people a little more. Let me give a little personal story. And as smart as I like to believe I am, I did not put this together until later in life. I may have put this together maybe 10 years ago. My birthday is August 28th. I'm actually born on my mother's birthday, but that's regardless. I'm born August 28th. My mother and father were born in the same year. I believe it was on January 25th. Do the math. It takes 9 to 10 months for a child to be born from the time that the conceiving takes place. My parents must have gotten married, and I have never asked my mother of this question. I can't ask my father, he's gone. But my parents got married pretty much 7 months prior to my birth, which means that my parents wound up getting pregnant with me prior to being married, right? Okay. I very well wouldn't be here if my parents or my mother would have went down the road of, we're not married, we don't have any money, we need to get rid of this child, right? So I'm going to push for this a little bit more than maybe the average person, because one day I was sitting up on my balcony and I did the math. And I'm like, holy cow, there are so many different avenues that a couple or a woman can take. It doesn't have to be, I'm 8 months pregnant, let me kill this child off, I have no money. You would think that these people like Walz or AOC or whatever, if they're going to champion for the ability to abort, at least say first trimester. I mean, third trimester. In today's technology, all you have to do is take a look at the sonogram or ultrasound, whatever the hell it's called, and you can see it's a living baby in there. And these people don't give a rat's ass. These are the most evil, sinister fucking people in the world. These people are ISIS hiding behind the Democrat shield. That's really what it comes down to. To me, there's no difference between putting innocent people in a vat of acid, like I've watched ISIS do how many times before on videos, and telling a woman at 9 months, yeah, go ahead, go kill that. What's the fucking difference? I mean, I'm going to start losing my shit here. What's the difference? There is no difference. These people are demonic. Demonic. I would love, if you got, somebody sent me an email today, said, I love your newsletter. I love your newsletter. It's unbelievable. But it occurred to me today that it's only conservatives that are reading your information. We need to get this out to Democrats. And I wrote back to her. I said, that's your responsibility. Your responsibility is take the information, take the news, take the opinion, take the insight, take the numbers, and then you share it to the person who's in your family, who's in your friend group, who's got their head sewed on backwards and upside down. You can convert them. I have converted people, so I know that it is capable of doing, but that is your job. Your job is to learn here and go share. And you're giving me a face of doubt.
Not doubt, because I've agreed too. I've said, if you can convert. I think there's just some people where to apply your efforts and not. I mean, I know we know someone that is a Democrat, and when Trump, had the first assassination attempt, that person couldn't even look at the screen because just the Trump hatred is so large. But I think you got to really know if it's someone's like, I'm not crazy about Trump. Okay, well, this is what he did. This is why you would benefit from his presidency. And are you really better off in the last 4 years? I mean, that's their biggest strengthening point, right? Are you better off in these last 4 years compared to the 4 years under Trump? And some people know that and still won't admit it.
I think the way you deal with that person, and I know what you're talking about, and the environment that we were in at that time was not the right time to do it. But I've been in conversations with that person before, and I will tell you right now, I have gone easy on them because friendships with, the husband and other people would be impacted. But we're at a point right now, like Dennis Quaid said, going back a couple of weeks ago when he introduced Trump at the California rally, we're at a point now where you got to pick sides. We're talking about the not the future of America. We're talking about whether or not America is even here. Okay? So I would, if I was in front of somebody, I would say to them, look, and I'd like to do this in front of other people to really make them think. Are you standing here right now as a Democrat saying that you're cool with a baby who maybe is 2 weeks away from being born, that child is murdered? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with a baby who is 3 days old having somebody come in and murder them? That's a great question, right? You've got 3 weeks before, let's say, for instance, somebody's due date is September 1, and it's August 10. You're okay with the murderer of that baby. Somebody's like, it's not a baby, it's not a murder. It's baloney. It's feeding, it's eating, it's kicking, it's doing the whole thing. It's just in a cocoon. It's no big deal. If you're okay with that, then you must be okay that 3 weeks after that child is born, let's call it September 21, if some person comes in, breaks in, and stabs that baby to death in a mass murder, they shouldn't be up for murder on that child because it's only 3 weeks old. I mean, you've got to present these people with scenarios that make them look like absolute bananas.
Right. And again, particular people, I mean, we've said it before, right? Like, for some reason, and I'm not saying all women, because if you're a married woman or you're even older, you know that this is not your number one issue. But for some reason, a lot of single younger women in America, particularly when it comes to it, they have the belief that abortion is the number one issue facing the country, which is crazy. You ask most males my age, they'd be like, I would like to afford a house one day and be able to start a family and also have some job security and not get laid off because, this company went bankrupt because, the economy is being effed up by the Biden administration. Like, it's for males, I think there's the greater concept of the society in the whole. Whereas younger women, single younger women, the Taylor Swift fans out there, to generalize, they just make it that the number one issue is something more personal to them, personalized, like, oh, my ability to have a baby if I want to or not. And when you do that, and then when you have the Democrats vulturing in and honing in, this is your number one issue, they really are led to believe it. And I'm not making it up because I have seen it, not necessarily in my own friend groups. I've just seen it with people I know, of people they know. Some people, women, really believe that is the number one issue facing the country.
And maybe that's why when we drive, if people who watched yesterday's show, that's maybe why when we drive over the bridge, we're going to our softball game, that we see 40 people standing on a corner with Harris Walls tags and signs that they're all white women. With that being said, you picked out a good commercial. Ryan cut it. I want to play it. And then after that, I want to go back to some of this voter suppression stuff because there's some new things that just came out while we're doing the show.
Yeah, because I have a big question for you when this ad plays.
Okay. Yeah. So I out of respect to the people who are listening to this program, you would not get an iota of what it is that we're playing right now because they're using facial expressions. I'm going to explain this at the front and then let people watch it. There's an ad right now put out by the Kamala campaign that basically shows a man and a woman going to vote. She is dressed as you would expect a MAGA person to dress. She's got the American flag hat on. She's got a real Trump look to her, if you will.
And it's husband and wife.
And it's husband and wife.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're going in and they go to cast their vote. And when the wife is at the voting booth, it shows that she looks over to see if her husband's watching. Obviously, you can't see. And secretly, she votes for Kamala Harris as she is looking across at another woman, and they're kind of giving each other the wink that they both know what they're doing, voting for Kamala. After the vote is submitted, she comes out and the husband says, "You made the right choice, right?" And she says, "Yes, I did." So play the ad. Let's see people see it.
Your turn, honey.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose, you can vote any way you want. And no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey.
Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls. Vote Common Good is responsible for the contents of this ad.
So the Harris campaign, and we talked about it earlier this week, have been putting out some really freaking just bonkers, crazy ads. Like the disgusting masturbation one, the one I mentioned about the Asian Americans. So then you got this one. And I looked at some of the X comments and reactions to it. And some people said, like, I can't ever imagine, like, voting differently than my wife. Like, I would never marry someone who's got a completely different value set and then ends up, like, voting for someone that I think is destroying the country. And then someone even said, like, if I found out, like, my wife is telling me, oh, yeah, Trump, and then goes and votes Kamala, I feel like that's a big embed of distrust that I never saw. And there's just this debate, like, can you actually fully be committed and married with another person, knowing that they have a different value set or are going to vote someone differently that essentially cancels out your vote? Like, could you even imagine, like, being married to mom and knowing that she's, like, secretly voting for Kamala? I mean, is that compatible? Like, do you think?
Well, no, it's not compatible. And you know what that is? I mean, basically what that commercial highlights is go out and be a liar.
Yeah.
Forget about honesty and truth. Go out and be a liar. Lie to your husband. Cheat on your husband. That's what these Democrats support. I mean, look, Tim Walz, we just did a whole report on this. Daily Mail came out with a whole thing that he wound up having an affair, right? Is that what's on there? This is where they come from. Now I know somebody would say, "Oh, what are you talking about? Trump's had how many affairs?" Yeah, all right, fine. Whoever's perfect, go throw your stone against the glass house. But the point being here is that Donald J. Trump is not putting out advertisements to lure people in and saying, "Hey, I want you to go out and lie and cheat and steal." I mean, to me, the fact that they would even put an ad out like that supports the theory that we're all saying this is the party of cheating and stealing. That's what that is. It's disgusting. I mean, if I found out that your mother went and voted for Kamala Harris, but told me she voted for Trump, however it is that I found out about that, I would go back and question everything that she tells me, where she was last night, where she was today, why there's a debit on my credit card. I would start questioning everything.
Well, that's where it baffles me, right? I mean, how is it that you maybe are in a 40, 50-year marriage and you have someone that is voting completely opposite of you? Because look, you and mom have deep conversations, right, on the Wine and Talk podcast, but you guys even have deeper conversations when it's off camera. So how is it that, like, a man and a wife can be together and they're voting for two candidates with totally different value sets? Do they just not have enough conversation to ever actually address what their beliefs are? I find it bad. But that whole ad is a theme of undermine your marriage for something that you guys obviously portray to each other to have the same values, but clearly that woman has different ones if she's voting for Kamala. Tell me that's not a divorce in the making.
Of course. But what's more interesting, I think, than what it is that my wife casts as a vote? I'd love to see Anderson Cooper's vote. If Anderson Cooper still votes for Kamala Harris after interviewing her and seeing what she was like at that town hall, he is as stupid as Joe Biden. I'd love to see what half of these people who work at the New York Times, Washington Post, all these other, where they really put their Hollywood, where they really put their vote. And I'll give you an example why. If the Trump victory is secured, these media outlets make a fortune. They cover him for the next 4 years. They make a fortune. Their stocks all went up incredibly when it was that Trump was in office. These people are the most contradictory, hypocritical slime balls that were ever created. I guarantee you that the majority of these nuts that you see, these liars that you see on television, they are voting for Trump quietly when nobody's looking, because what they're doing is they're out there on television trying to sell and make money for themselves. And then quietly, they're trying to protect their money by voting for Trump. That's really what it comes down to, Dennis. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I just found that ad interesting. I think next time you and Mom do a wine talk, you could talk about the question: can spouses be together if they have political differences?
Well, we will have I believe, what's today? Is today Wednesday?
Wednesday.
I believe Mom and I will be together on Friday here doing a show. Two things before we wrap this up, Dennis. Two things that just came across in the last half hour. This one is from a guy named Colin Rugg on X. He's a journalist. He's pretty good. He comes out with stuff pretty well. The Kamala Harris campaign was caught manipulating community notes to spread left-wing propaganda on X, also known as Twitter. This is according to the Federalist. The campaign is reportedly using a Discord server to swarm hordes of users to manipulate the community notes. The strategy is also being used to limit community notes from showing up on Kamala-affiliated accounts. The goal is to artificially manufacture consensus by making pro-Kamala Harris messages on social media appear more popular than they are. Kamala Harris's account, along with the campaign's Kamala HQ headquarters account, have received almost no notes, despite sharing hundreds of misleading and false posts. The reason is likely because of the Discord server, which rushes users to strike down the community notes before they appear. Explain to people what community notes is on X.
It's almost more of a legitimate fact checking. So rather than getting your ABC, CBS affiliate that is obviously going to have their bias and they're particularly going after propaganda, the community notes is supposed to be collective from users on X to say, hey, this is actually like some people will be like, oh, this is a video of January 6th, people going crazy. And then the community note would be, actually, this video was taken in Minneapolis during the 2020 riots. You know, that this was just manipulated to look like that. So it's more of a fact checking, but with an authenticity, or it can actually be used to add context to a video. So if someone just posts something with, 3 or 4 words, and you're like, what the hell is this really all about? Community notes is supposed to add context, like, oh, this actually derived from this event, this date, this, that. So it's not necessarily to say, oh, this tweet or this is wrong. It's to use context or actually strike down if the tweet is wrong or misleading.
So I'm going to read something else that the Federalist just put out. Breaking news. Judge kills case that would require Pennsylvania to verify overseas voters' identities. Let me give you what is written here. I'll go as fast as I can. Pennsylvania election policies for overseas voters have created vulnerabilities that could lead to corruption, according to a court case. With early voting underway, the Pennsylvania Department of State and 6 members of Congress have been in a legal battle over whether these voters' identities should be verified before they are given a ballot. But the case was dismissed Tuesday at the request of Pennsylvania Secretary of State Al Schmidt, not based on the merits of the case, but because of timing. Plaintiffs delayed too long to file their action. They lack standing. They have failed to join indispensable parties, and they have failed to articulate a viable cause of action. That's what Judge Christopher C. Connor of the U.S. Middle District Court of Pennsylvania said in his decision. The case was brought by U.S. reps, and they put the names, who joined the action later. The case stems from guidance the state gave counties regarding the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, a federal law that assures American citizens who are out of the country can still vote. Sometimes this causes voters are called, the Uniformed and Overseas Citizen Absentee Voting Act, we'll just call it the Voting Act from here on. Sometimes the Voting Act voters are called military voters because they are used mostly by military. But since 2014, non-military voters have outpaced those in the military, and that's data from the Election Administration and Voting Survey. Voters who have lived outside the United States for years are not sure if they will return may vote in Pennsylvania's elections. This year, 32,711 of these voters have requested ballots in Pennsylvania as of October 21. Of those, 5,681, that is just 17%, are military voters, according to data from the Pennsylvania Department of State. The Pennsylvania Department of State has directed county election officials that they must register overseas voters who apply for voter registration, even if the county cannot verify the requester's identity by matching a driver's license or social security number to the state databases, which is required by federal Help America Vote Act. The congressman challenged the Pennsylvania Department of State over their identity verification directive. So basically, Dennis, HAVA, which is the Help America Vote Act, requires states to follow minimum standards when applicants seek voter registration for federal election. The applicant must provide, at the time of registration, a valid driver's license number. If the requester doesn't have a driver's license, he may use the last 4 digits of his social security number. Applicants who do not have a driver's license or social security number can be assigned a unique identifying number and verify their identity and voter eligibility using other approved documents. But in direct conflict with the federal and state law, Defendant's Secretary of the Commonwealth, Al Schmidt, or Deputy Secretary for Elections, Jonathan Marks, or both, have issued directives and guidance to election officials to exempt these applicants entirely from any verification requirements. So without a verification, Pennsylvania elections could be subject to manipulation by foreign nations, such as Iran. The state argues the federal postcard application available online doubles as both a voter registration application and an absentee application. So basically what's happening here, all right, and this, it also says, members of Congress warned in the filing that, as described in the U.S. Department of Justice indictment, Iranian nationals, in efforts to interfere with our elections, demonstrated that bad actors could easily create and submit falsified basic applications in Pennsylvania. So ultimately, Pennsylvania is saying the following, unless I read this completely wrong. If you're overseas, it doesn't matter whether you're a veteran, an active military participant, a person who's on vacation, or an Iranian. If you want to vote in Pennsylvania's election, we'll allow you to. Just ask for a ballot. We'll send you a ballot. We're not going to verify it. Send it back. We're going to count your vote. So basically, we've been worried about illegal aliens crossing our border, voting in our election. And yet, right now in Pennsylvania, 35,000 of these absentee ballots have been sent out overseas, of which only 17%, 6,000, have been proven to be sent to members of the active military. You tell me that isn't fraud on a plate.
It is, and it's served cold and disgusting. So it just...
In Pennsylvania, the biggest swing state there is, which is run by a radical governor, Josh Shapiro, who would have been the vice presidential candidate that she would have picked had he not been a Jew. All right. That's enough for us. I'm going to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
A couple of things here before we say goodbye, so this way you know. First of all, Denny and I and Ryan have been working overtime. We give you the 11 o'clock show. We just went long today, an hour and a half. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you're not going to go outside and dunk yourself into a pool and never come out of it because you just want to freaking whisk yourself away. I feel like I just want to jump into the ocean and just scream. But not only do we give you this show, but at 7 o'clock at night, we come back and give another half-hour program just to kind of give an update if anything big happens during the day. I would expect we'll have more. So tonight at 7 o'clock on the DML News app and on Team DML, you could get the program at 7 o'clock. All right? That said, I also want to close out by telling existing DML CBD customers, if you have not heard, We are running our last BOGO of the year, and maybe for a very long time, if ever, especially if Kamala wins somehow in the middle of the night. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to keep that business going on for a long time because she's going to destroy everything. So dmlcbd.com/BOGO, BOGO. I know we're running out of products because everybody's coming in and grabbing them. Go in there and get your buy one, get one free. If you've got the money, I would buy a year worth of supply. So this way, you know, you're good to go while we try to figure out what we're going to do if Kamala wins. If Trump wins, well, you can't lose. You got your product. Make sure you go in there and you do it now. Don't wait because already we're out of stuff. And I'm not going to be ordering new stuff in the next month or so because we're not going to be storing it here anymore. We're closing this warehouse down and moving somewhere else. So that's that. Number 2, if you want to sign up for our free newsletter, has no ads, it's completely for free. Go to DennisMichaelLynch.com and you'll get the newsletter every day. Sometimes we send it in the morning. Today is going to be an afternoon. Yesterday was the afternoon. But every single day, it is chock full of information. You don't want to miss it. DennisMichaelLynch.com. All right, those are the 3 things you needed to know. On behalf of my son, Ryan, who clipped all the clips today, thank you, Ryan. And on behalf of my son, Denny, we appreciate you being with us. As always, we know there's other people you could listen to, but we think that we offer you the best and the most honest program there is out there. If you agree, download the DML News app and become a member of TeamDML.com. That said, we wish you and your family in the United States of America all of God's wishes, and may God bless Donald J. Trump.
And today's Team DML blessing goes out to Kim Kearney.
Sounds good, Kim. Enjoy it. Talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.